Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL draft is finally here. And with that being said, I thought I'd give you guys my final mock draft of the season. Now, this is a predictive mock draft. This isn't what I would do. This is what I think is going to happen. And trust me, it's going to be 100% accurate, I'm sure. But with that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so starting us off with the number 1 pick, we got the Carolina Panthers. And just like my other draft, I don't see them going any other place but Bryce Young. Like I said, I know earlier on in the process, CJ Stroud was a big name. And I know some guy on Reddit said people close to Will Levis say he's going number 1 overall. It's Reddit. It's some random guy on Reddit. It's no one serious. Even Will Levis said it too. Don't trust everything you hear on the internet. So I still think the pick's going to be Bryce Young. I think it's a bad pick if they don't pick Bryce Young. So we're going to go ahead and go with Bryce Young, number 1 overall. Now we got the Houston Texans. And I'm convinced that they're not going to go a quarterback here. I really don't think they are. And so that leaves us with a defensive player for DeMeco Ryans. And it's either Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson. And the reports are that they're liking Tyree Wilson a bit more. Now, again, this is a predictive mock draft. This isn't what I would do. If this was what I would do, then I would go Will Anderson here. Or, heck, I'd probably go CJ Stroud. But this is a predictive mock draft. So we're going to feed into the rumors, and we are going to go with Tyree Wilson, number 2 overall. Which I think is a reach, but I don't think it's a bad pick. He's still my edge 2, and I think he's definitely a top 10 pick. Top 10 talent, at least. Now, number 3, we got the Arizona Cardinals. And almost all draft process, people have been saying that the Cardinals are going to trade down. But you rarely see a team trade down that's in the top 5. And a team to trade up, because it just costs a lot. And I don't think they're going to have a draft partner or a trade partner, because the Texans are going to go Tyree Wilson. The Cardinals aren't obviously going to draft a quarterback, so that leaves the Colts to pick one. Other teams aren't going to want to have to jump up the Colts if they've got 3 quarterbacks to choose from. So I think it's going to be Will Anderson. Will Anderson just drops in their lap. They've got to take him. He's the best player on a lot of people's boards. He's the best player on my board. So I think that's a great pick at number 3. I think that's a steal for the Cardinals at number 3. Now moving on to number 4. Just like I had in my other mock draft, I think it's Will Levis. Will Levis is just a Colt. I see him in a Colts uni, and maybe that's because he played in Kentucky and the uniforms are kind of similar. But he just seems like an Indianapolis Colt. I think Will Levis can be good. I think he gets a lot of unnecessary hate. And what I'm about to say is going to sound bad at first, but I think he could be like a Carson Wentz. But I think his ceiling is MVP Carson Wentz before he tore his ACL. But I also think his floor is Colts Carson Wentz or Commanders Carson Wentz. So it's a big gap, and it's a risky pick. But I think Will Levis is better than what a lot of people are saying he is. So we're going to go with Will Levis there at 4. Now, number 5, we could go quarterback here too. I don't think that's out of the question. But I also don't think that's likely. They got Geno Smith. They just signed him, even though they can get out of his contract in a year or two. And I think they should... I think they're going to try to pair up Tariq Woolen with one of these stud corners. The question is it going to be Christian Gonzalez or is it going to be Devin Witherspoon? I like Christian Gonzalez a bit more. It's close, but I do like Gonzalez a bit more than Witherspoon. I think Gonzalez can play both zone and man at a high level. I think I'm going to go Christian Gonzalez here. Just edging out Devin Witherspoon. And now the Lions are picking here at 6. And Jalen Carter's falling, just like a lot of people are saying. Dan Campbell could probably kick Jalen Carter into shape and keep him away from all the controversy and all the immaturity. But I also don't know if he would want Jalen Carter on the team, just messing with the chemistry. The Lions also need a cornerback, and Devin Witherspoon's sitting here too, looking nice. I think it's either Jalen Carter or Devin Witherspoon, and I'm gonna go Devin Witherspoon here. Devin Witherspoon at number 6 to the Lions. And now at number 7, we have the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, and I know they got Jimmy Garoppolo, but he is a bridge quarterback on a bridge quarterback type of contract. And when you see C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson just falling into your lap at 7, you don't need to trade up or anything, and they're just sitting here. I think you got to choose between one of them. And I think C.J. Stroud is a bit better than Anthony Richardson. I think he's a safer pick. So I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud. Moving on to the number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. And I do not like the idea of drafting Jalen Carter to a team in Georgia. It just doesn't seem smart to me. And there have been a lot of rumors of the Falcons really liking Bijan. Now, do you draft Bijan at 8? I don't think so. I really do not think so. But what I do think could happen is we're going to have our first trade of the night. And we're going to trade with the Eagles. I'm going to have the Eagles trading up. Let's see. Don't take what the Eagles trade too seriously. I'm just going to force it. So we got the Eagles trading up for the falling Jalen Carter. Now hear me out. I know the Eagles are also linked to Bijan, but I just can't see Howie going away from his draft philosophy, which is defensive lineman, offensive lineman in the first round. That's it. And when you have a stud blue chip prospect, Jalen Carter, falling, and he's within reach, I think Howie's not going to be able to help himself. I think he's going to go after Jalen Carter. So we're going to go with Jalen Carter with the number 8 pick. Now at number 9, we got the Chicago Bears. Now the Bears could go in a few different directions. They got their receiver in DJ Moore after trading the number 1 pick. So I don't think receiver is necessarily in play here. They could go offensive line, get Justin Fields some more help, but protection-wise instead of weapon-wise. And so I think it's between Paris Johnson and Peter Skoronski. I really like Peter Skoronski. I think he's the best offensive lineman. The question is, which teams have him as a tackle and which teams have him as a guard? That's really the question here. And Peter Skoronski, you draft him, he can play left tackle, left guard, center, guard, right tackle. I think he's capable of playing all 5. So I think the Bears draft Peter Skoronski and just stick him somewhere. You can stick him wherever, really. So we're going to go Peter Skoronski at 9. And now at number 10, after trading down a couple spots, getting some more draft capital, and then going Bijan Robinson at 10. I think that makes a little bit more sense, and I think that lets the Falcons kind of feel a little bit more easy about going running back in the top 10. And I'm not opposed to drafting running backs in the first round. What I am opposed to is giving the running backs a second contract. That's where it gets a little iffy. I'll draft a running back in the first round, especially in the back end. I wouldn't draft him in near the top 5 range like Saquon Barkley or Ezekiel Elliott or something like that. But at a 10 pick or in the back end of the first round, I'll take a running back. So moving on to number 11, we have the Tennessee Titans. And Anthony Richardson's just sitting there. The Titans, they need a quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is not the option long term. And I know they got Malik Willis. I don't think they like Malik Willis. I think they kind of just bit the bullet on that one and just kind of was like, all right, we made a mistake. He's not our guy. And he was also a 3rd round pick. So I think they get someone kind of similar to Malik Willis, but just higher upside and just better. He's got a strong arm like Malik Willis. He can run like Malik Willis, but he's got way more potential. So we're gonna go Anthony Richardson here at 11. Moving on to number 12, we have the Houston Texans, and they took Tyree Wilson at number 2. And there's been reports saying that the Texans would like to move from this spot, maybe move down. And so I think that's what we're going to do. I think we're going to have our second trade. Oh, there we go. It's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, don't take too much of this trade. It's not really a realistic trade. I'm just going to force it. So we're going to have the Pittsburgh Steelers moving up a few spots from 17 to 12. And they're going to take who I think is the best tackle, for sure tackle in the draft, Paris Johnson Jr. Now, Paris Johnson could probably go as high as 3 to the Cardinals if they stay at 3. Because there's reports that Kyler Murray really likes Paris Johnson. And he just wants some protection. So Paris Johnson can go as high as 3. But he falls to number 12, and the Steelers are going to trade up and grab their tackle. Their left tackle of the future, most likely. Now moving on to the Green Bay Packers at 13. Previously at 15 before the Aaron Rodgers trade. Now at 13, I think the Packers are going to kind of give Aaron Rodgers... They're going to kind of do Aaron Rodgers wrong here by going receiver or tight end here. Just because all the years Aaron Rodgers was there, they refused to do this. So that just seems like a little trolling could happen with the Packers finally taking a weapon. Now the question is, what weapon will they go? They could go receiver or tight end, really. They lost, who would they lose? They lost Robert Tonyan in free agency. So, I mean, they got their picks of the weapon. All the weapons are still on the board. They could go Jackson Smith and Jigba. But I really just see them taking Michael Mayer. He just seems like a Packer. Now, Dalton Kincaid is also here. But I think the Packers would value Michael Mayer's blocking ability too, as well as his receiving game. Because someone like Dalton Kincaid is strictly a receiving tight end. He's not going to do much in the blocking aspect of the tight end position. So we're going to go Michael Mayer here at pick 13. Now number 14, we have the New England Patriots. And all the receivers are still on the board. I can't see, especially Jackson Smith and Jigba, falling much further here. Packers really don't have many weapons at all. So I think that's just a prime spot for a JSN. And JSN just seems like a Packer. I mean, I'm sorry, not a Packer, a Patriot. Just a slot guy who's not very fast, more of a quick, twitchy guy that they can put in the slot. Be like their next Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. He just seems like a Patriot to me. I think Bill Belichick would love JSN. Moving on to 15, we got the New York Jets. And I think the pick here's got to be offensive line. You got to protect Rodgers. Rodgers is what, 39? I think he's 39. You know, he's not going to be able to maneuver the pocket like he really used to. So you need to get a lot of protection for him. And, oh man, do we go Darnell Wright or Broderick Jones? I got Broderick Jones over Darnell Wright. And Mekhi Becton plays on the left side. And I think they would replace Mekhi out of anyone on that line. Just because he's injury prone. He comes in overweight constantly. So I'm going to go with Broderick Jones here to play the left side of the offensive line. Moving on to 16, we have the Washington Commanders. And they need secondary help desperately. Now the question is, do they go with a slot guy like Brian Branch? They can also put him at safety next to Cameron Curl. Or do they go with one of the outside corners in Deontay Banks and Joey Porter? The more valuable spot would probably be to go an outside corner. And I really like Deontay Banks. He's also in Maryland, just like the Commanders. Keep him in state. I'm going to go Deontay Banks. Deontay is just a super physical man corner. And I think that's exactly what the Commanders need. And now at 17, we have the Houston Texans after trading down with the Steelers. And now we're going to take a weapon, I think. I think that's what the Texans are probably going to look for at 17. Now we could go Dalton Kincaid. We got Jordan Addison sitting here still. Quentin Johnston's down here somewhere. I think the pick is going to be... I'm going to go with Quentin Johnston. Now, I don't necessarily like Quentin Johnston that much, and I heard that not many teams are, but he just seems like a guy that would go in the first round. He's big, not so physical, but great after the catch. And I think they could pair him up with John Mechie, who's also coming back from, leukemia. So, glad to hear he's back and healthy. Now at 18, we got the Detroit Lions. Now, Jameson Williams has been suspended for, 6 games for gambling. Oh, man, crazy. So I think we're going to go with a weapon here as well. Now, Jordan Addison, he can play the slot or he can play outside. I know a lot of people say he might not be able to play outside because he's just going to get bullied by more physical corners. But I think he can play on the outside. I'm not saying he is Devontae Smith, but Devontae Smith is able to play on the outside pretty fine. And I think as long as he gets a little bit more physical in his route running, I mean, he can create separation with the best of them with his just pure route running ability. He just needs to be a little bit more physical and not let corners knock him off of his route. But I think pairing him up and having Jameson Williams when he comes back, Amon-Ra in the slot, and then Jordan Addison on the opposite side, that could be deadly. That could be absolutely deadly. Moving on, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I think they need edge help, and a guy like Nolan Smith, who I think is dropping a bit, this could be the range where he goes, but I think he should probably go a bit higher than this. I think Nolan Smith is the answer. Lucas Van Ness maybe, but I think they value the more athletic edge rushers more than the kind of physical, powerful edge rushers. So we're going to go with Nolan Smith here from Georgia at number 19. Now, number 20, we have the Seattle Seahawks. And I think they would probably look to pair someone across from Tariq Woolen. And Joey Porter is sitting here still. I usually like to have the Steelers take Joey Porter at pick 17, but since they traded up and got Paris Johnson, Joey Porter's fallen a bit. And I think Joey Porter is going to be the pick. He's nice. He's physical. He's more of a zone guy, just like Tariq Woolen. I just think he fits pretty perfectly with Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. Now moving on to pick 21, because the Dolphins forfeited their pick. We could look to give the Chargers a weapon. Could also go Brian Branch here, pair him up with Derwin James. But I think we're going to go with the bigger physical guy. I think the Chargers could get Lucas Van Ness, tell him to beef up just a bit and play him more in that 3-tech area. So we're going to go with Lucas Van Ness here from Iowa. Now, number 22, we have the Baltimore Ravens. And yeah, I know they signed Odell Beckham, but it's a 1-year contract. That's not going to stop them from drafting a receiver if they like one of the receivers on the board here. Now, I'm not known as a fan of Zay Flowers, but a lot of teams are. A lot of teams think he could be the next, like, Antonio Brown. And I know Odell Beckham probably would play a good amount of snaps in the slot. I think him and Zay Flowers could kind of interchange from the slot, because I think Zay Flowers can also win on the outside occasionally. I just don't think he could be a full-time outside guy. But I think him and Odell can kind of interchange from outside to slot. So, plus Odell's most likely only going to be there for a year. So I think Zay Flowers is the pick here at 22. Now at 23, we have the Minnesota Vikings, and I think this is a trade down spot. There's been talks about the Saints wanting to move up in the draft, and I think this is a spot for them. So we're going to go New Orleans Saints. Again, don't really mind what I'm going to be trading because I'm not really worried about that. Because we're only doing the first round here. All right. So now we have the Saints picking at 23. And I think the Saints probably go defensive line here. Myles Murphy's here. I really like Myles Murphy. I don't think he should fall this far. I mean, I would take him with a top 12 pick, top 13 pick. But he's sitting here at 23. So is Kalijah Kancey too. Man. I'm going to go with Myles Murphy here at 23. I just think they need defensive line help, and either one would do, but Myles Murphy is more that prototypical edge / 3-tech guy. Kalijah Kancey is kind of like an unknown. He's not going to be able to defend the run really at all, on the inside at least. They could kick Kalijah Kancey to the outside on like obvious run plays, but I'm going to go with Myles Murphy. Now at 24, we have the Jaguars. Man, I really like Brian Branch here. I like him a lot here. The Jaguars need just help in the secondary period. So I'm going to go with Brian Branch here, 24, which sucks as a Giants fan. I would love Brian Branch to fall here. And the Giants, what the Giants need is a receiver, a cornerback, safety, and none of those are here. Now, I think this could be a trade down spot. I don't think Emmanuel Forbes is too smart. Wink Martindale likes to blitz a lot and leave kind of corners out on an island, and I just think Emmanuel Forbes is a bit too small, a bit too skinny to be able to hold his own on the outside by himself. And I've seen this a lot, and I don't know how I feel about it. It's not the most sexy pick in the world, but we do need a center. And John Michael Schmitz is a pretty good center. He can just slide in and start day one, which is fantastic. But I think a lot of Giants fans aren't going to be happy with that. They're going to want that interior guy in round 2. But John Michael Schmitz, there was reports too somewhat recently that they were in on Jahmyr Gibbs and they were keeping an eye on him. But I think they're going to work something out with Saquon. I don't see Saquon moving anytime soon. So we're going to go with John Michael Schmitz here to just slot in at center and start from day one there. Now the Cowboys also could go Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is definitely in play here. But also Darnell Wright is here. And Tyrone Smith gets injured at least once a season. He's also up there in age. He could retire after next season. So getting their replacement there at right tackle would be pretty ideal. And when Darnell Wright's just dropping here, I think Darnell Wright could realistically go probably sooner than this. But I think that's a pretty good pick for the Cowboys. They were taking back-to-back tackles and back-to-back years in the first round, but it is what it is. All right, now we got the Buffalo Bills, and I think the Bills, they got James Cook. I don't think he's a number one guy. Jahmyr Gibbs, oh man, I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he could be like a Jamal Charles, really. And having that with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, that would just be crazy. And they were rumored just like the Giants to be looking at Jahmyr Gibbs. So we're going to go Jahmyr Gibbs there at 27. Now at 28, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think Dalton Kincaid here is just sitting here. I like Dalton Kincaid a lot to the Bengals. I've mocked that to them pretty often. I think if Jahmyr Gibbs fell to one more pick to the Bengals, they would take Jahmyr Gibbs. But unfortunately, the Bills ended up taking him at 27. Now, at 29, after trading back with the Saints, we have the Minnesota Vikings. And sorry, I'm watching the Bucks Heat game, and They got 6 seconds left, so I'm also keeping an eye on that. So at 29, we have the Minnesota Vikings. And I think Kaladji fell a bit too far. I don't think they'll be able to pass up on Kaladji. They don't really have anyone on the interior either. They lost Dalvin Tomlinson. I know Kaladji is not great against the run, but he is just unbelievable against the pass. I mean, a lot of people compare him to Aaron Donald, and I obviously wouldn't go that far, but he's similar to Aaron Donald, just at a lower level. Now at number 30, we have the Eagles, and like I said, Howie loves to go offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and right here we're looking at, we could go Osiris Torrance here. I actually really like Osiris Torrance, because before I was thinking Felix Anudike-Uzomah seems like an Eagle as well, but Osiris Torrance is here. I didn't expect him to be here. Ooh. We're going Osiris Torrance. Howie loves his Howie loves his offensive lineman. And who do they have? They have what's his name? Cam Jurgens. But he's more of a center. He's waiting for Kelsey to retire so he can take over at center. They still need a guard. He could play guard, but he was also was he a second or third round pick? I'm not sure. But I think Osiris Torrance can slot in there perfectly fine. Now at number 31, I'm taking my shot here. I've said it for a while now. The Chiefs are getting their Tyreek Hill replacement in Jalen Hyatt. Maybe a bit of a reach, but I think Jalen's going in the first round, and I think the Chiefs would be a perfect spot for him. I think if he goes to any other team in the first round, he's probably going to struggle a bit, and people are going to look at him as probably a failure. But if he goes to the Chiefs, man, ooh, that could be deadly. So that's the draft, guys. Let me know if you guys like the picks that your team made, and if you like the video, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. And as always, thank you.